I knew something was wrong long before Daniel ever said a word. It was in the little things, the way he sat farther from me at dinner, pushing food around his plate instead of eating. The way his laugh had vanished, replaced by polite half-smiles that didn't touch his eyes. Nights grew longer, colder, as he stayed out later, claiming work. But the truth was louder than his excuses. One evening, while folding laundry, I went to put away a shirt in his office closet. That's when I saw it, a suitcase, tucked neatly in the corner, half-packed. Shirts I hadn't ironed. Papers I hadn't touched. It hit me like a punch to the chest. He wasn't just drifting away, he was planning to leave me. I stood there frozen, staring at the suitcase, my hands trembling against the fabric of his shirt. 100 questions screamed in my mind. Why? When? Was there someone else? Was I not enough? And in that moment, my whole world could have shattered. I could have yelled. I could have cried. I could have begged. But instead, I breathed. And I whispered to myself, if he's planning to leave me, I'll plan smarter. I didn't know exactly what smarter meant yet. Only that I refused to let bitterness define me. Smarter didn't mean schemes. It didn't mean chasing him or trapping him. No, my plan would be something he could never expect. Kindness. So I started small. The next morning, I brewed his coffee exactly the way he liked it, 2 sugars, a splash of cream, even though I knew he'd barely glance at it before rushing out the door. When he came home late, instead of questioning, I quietly reheated dinner and left it waiting for him on the table. Sometimes he didn't touch it. Sometimes he didn't even notice. But still, I kept going. I slipped little notes into his briefcase, just a few words, drive safe. Proud of you. You matter. I never signed them with desperation, never wrote please don't leave. I simply wrote reminders of the love that once lived between us. At night, when he did speak, I listened, really listened. I didn't interrupt, didn't defend myself, didn't ask the questions burning inside me. I just let him be heard. And here's the secret, my plan was never really about winning him back. Deep down, I knew love isn't something you can force. My plan was about me. About remembering the woman I wanted to be, no matter what happened. I wanted to be someone who chose love over bitterness. Grace over anger. Even if he walked away. Every small act of kindness became a thread, not tying him down, but holding me together. It was a quiet night, the kind where the silence feels heavier than words. I walked into the living room and froze. The suitcase, the same one I had once discovered hidden away, was now by the front door. Neatly packed. Upright. Ready. Daniel sat on the couch beside it, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. His face was pale, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion, but more than that, with finality. This was it. The moment he would leave. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might break through my chest. 1,000 pleas rose in my throat, but I swallowed them down. My plan had never been to beg. My plan was smarter than that. So I walked over quietly. I sat down beside him, close enough to feel the warmth of his arm but not close enough to trap him. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us was thick, tense, almost unbearable. Finally, I placed my hand over his. He didn't move. He didn't look at me. And with all the steadiness I could gather, I whispered. Daniel. I don't want to stop you from leaving. If that's what you need, I'll accept it. But before you go, there's something I have to say. I'm grateful. For every moment we had. For the laughter, the memories, even for the ache I feel right now, because it reminds me how deeply I loved. And I will never regret that. For the first time in months, his shoulders shifted, not with distance, but with something else. His grip on the suitcase loosened, just slightly. He still didn't speak, but I saw it, a flicker of conflict in his eyes, as if my words had cut deeper than any anger ever could. In that moment, I realized something. This wasn't about whether he stayed or went. This was about who I had chosen to be in the face of heartbreak. And I had chosen love. The silence after my words stretched long, almost unbearable. I thought maybe he would just stand up, grab the suitcase, and walk out the door without looking back. My hand still rested gently on his, but I braced myself for the emptiness that was about to follow. Then, slowly, he lifted his face. His eyes were wet, shimmering with tears he had been holding back for far too long. "Emma," his voice cracked, unsteady, fragile. "I thought leaving would make me free." He paused, pressing a hand against his chest as if he were holding in years of unspoken pain. His next words trembled in the air. "But maybe I've just been running. From the best part of me. From you." The suitcase handle slipped from his fingers and hit the floor with a soft thud. And with it, the weight of months, maybe years, of distance seemed to crumble. Tears spilled down my cheeks, but I didn't move closer. I didn't cling. I simply let him sit there in the rawness of that moment. Because this wasn't about me convincing him. This was about him realizing it for himself. For the first time in so long, I saw the man I had fallen in love with, the one who once looked at me like I was his whole world. And for the first time, he looked at me that way again. He reached for my hand, gripped it tight, and whispered, "I don't deserve your kindness." And I shook my head softly. It was never about deserving. It was about remembering who we are. That night, Daniel didn't walk out the door. The suitcase stayed by the wall, untouched, as if it had never been packed. But we both knew, staying wasn't the same as fixing. We had a long road ahead, and it wouldn't be easy. The next morning, over coffee, he looked at me differently. Not with the distant politeness I had grown used to, but with something raw, something real. "If you'll let me," he said quietly, "I want to try again. I don't want to run anymore." I didn't rush to embrace him. I didn't pretend everything was suddenly healed. Instead, I simply nodded and replied, "Then let's start with honesty. Let's start with us." And we did. It wasn't perfect, some days we stumbled, some days old wounds ached. But for the first time in a long time, we walked through it together. Not as strangers sharing a house, but as two people fighting for the same home. And here's what I realized, my plan had never really been about keeping him. It was about being true to myself, about choosing kindness in the face of heartbreak. Because kindness has a way of softening walls, of healing wounds, of bringing people back, not through force, but through grace. Daniel didn't stay because I trapped him. He stayed because kindness showed him something worth returning to. And in the end, that was the smarter plan all along. Because sometimes, the smartest thing you can do isn't to hold on tighter. It's to let go with love. And love, real love, always finds its way home.